May 20th, 1987, we saw the release of Beverly Hills Cop Part 2, the follow-up to one of Eddie Murphy's funniest movies of all time. Now Part 2, not quite as good as Part 1, but still a funny movie. Now if you haven't seen the video that I did on Part 1, I'll put a link to it at the end of this video. But today, we're checking out filming locations for Beverly Hills Cop Part 2. So, let's go see what we can find. So the movie begins with the jewelry store being robbed, and we see the limo pulling up in front of the jewelry store near the corner of Hollywood Boulevard and Highland Avenue. We see the limo pulling up right here in front of the old Max Factor building, which is now the Hollywood Museum. Now pay attention to all of this right here, because when the limo pulls up, you can see all of this. Nothing has changed here. Also, when the limo is pulling up to the curb, across the street you can see Hollywood High School. Also, the buildings to the right of Hollywood High, those have since been torn down. Now, when Carla Fry is stepping out of the limo, you can see the buildings across the street, and not too much has changed there, but once they're inside the jewelry store, that's a completely different location. Not too sure where that was, possibly a set. I did notice that when they're inside the jewelry store, all of the windows are covered, so you can't see what's going on outside. Now, how do I know that the interiors were filmed at a different location? Well, first of all, I've been inside this building multiple times, and it looks nothing like the jewelry store. But also, when she's walking inside, behind her, you can see the buildings across the street, a tree, and a little bit of the sky. But once the door opens and the camera's shooting from inside, all you can see is a plant and some white fabric that's partially blocking the plant. You can see a shadow of the plant from the other side. That's obviously there to block the background that's behind her. Now, once they're inside robbing the jewelry store, it cuts to an armored truck pulling up to the back of the store, and I originally thought that this was filmed in another location as well, because they do a pretty good job of blocking out the scenery by placing the armored truck across the entire alley. But after studying that scene and studying this building, I figured out that that too was filmed behind the Max Factor building. This building on my right, that's the Max Factor building. That's the building that the armored truck pulls up to. You can see that the windows and the door still somewhat match up. However, these yellow posts can be seen in the movie. But how I really figured out that this is the right spot is at the end of the scene, if you pause it, because it's a very short scene, so you have to pause it. Right at the end, you can see the building across the way, and you can see these lines at the top of the building, as well as this door. All of this still matches up, and that tells us that this is definitely the same spot. After they get away with the jewelry store robbery, we see Axel getting ready to start his day. We then see him leaving in a red Ferrari. We see that red Ferrari driving around multiple Detroit locations, including passing by 2216 Park Avenue in Detroit. Can still match up most of the buildings, and we'll be seeing this same area again in just a bit. So when Axel pulls up to the restaurant to make the credit card deal, again, that's supposedly in Detroit, but it's actually right here in West Hollywood, California. That restaurant was the Formosa Cafe. Now, as you can see, it looks a little bit different. They've remodeled the outside, they've added a second story, and there's also some newer buildings to the left of the Formosa Cafe. You can see that it still has a similar awning over the door. They just had to change it because it now needs to cover the staircase and the second story, but still a very similar striped awning. Now, like I said, it didn't originally have a second story, so there was no staircase here, and that means also this wall has since been added. So it looks a little bit different, but all this right over here, this is part of the original building, and you can actually see this corner when he parks. And right over here, this is actually the area where Axel would have pulled up and parked the Ferrari, and then he walks into the restaurant through this door. Now from the outside, it appears that he's entering through the side door, which I just showed. But when the camera is shooting from inside the restaurant, it looks like he's coming through the front door. You can even see traffic on Santa Monica Boulevard behind him. Now the inside of the restaurant has been remodeled, but the basic layout is still the same. You got the bar on the right side, the booths on the left side, and those framed pictures above the door. Now I have seen some people online debating whether or not that scene was filmed here at the Formosa, and if you need any more proof beyond what I just showed you, Just watch the scene. If you look closely, when he pulls into the parking lot, you can actually see a sign that says Formosa. So after Axel leaves the Formosa, we see him once again driving on Park Avenue in Detroit. And this is the same spot where he was driving on his way to the restaurant, but now with the camera pointing in the opposite direction. He then pulls up in front of the Detroit Police Department, and the exteriors of that building are actually in Detroit. But once he gets inside of the police station, that's back here in Los Angeles. That was filmed right here inside of this building. This is the same building that they used for the interiors of the police station in part 1. And as I've previously mentioned, inside this building, they filmed Beverly Hills Cop 1, Beverly Hills Cop 2. This was also the police station from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Child's Play. A lot of cool stuff was filmed inside this building. And probably the coolest part is the interiors of this building have not changed too much in the last 40 years. We see Bogomill going for a morning jog near some horses, some oil pumps, and about 1,000 utility poles. Now, anyone that's ever been there would know that this is definitely not in Beverly Hills. This was filmed at the Inglewood oil fields off La Cienega in Baldwin Hills. Now, the oil fields are off limits to the public, and a lot of stuff has changed here. So I wasn't able to pinpoint the exact spot, but somewhere in these oil fields is where those scenes were filmed. So we get a really quick establishing shot of the outside of the Beverly Hills Police Department, and inside, Bogomill, Taggart, and Rosewood are all getting chewed out, and then Bogomill ends up getting suspended. Now, for some reason, in part 2, they used 2 different locations for the outside of the Beverly Hills Police Department. That first establishing shot that we get, that was the original building that was used in part 1, which is the Beverly Hills City Hall. So this building right here behind me, this is Pasadena City Hall, and this was the alternate Beverly Hills Police Department. Bogomill would have been parked right in front, just beside this lamppost. And then Carla Fry was parked right behind him. You can see the curve of the bricks and the curb. And then as they pull away, we get that faraway shot of the building. So right now I'm on Bedford Drive in Beverly Hills, and according to a couple of sources on the internet, it was right here next to this palm tree where Bogomill falls on the ground and then lays there on the grass waiting to die. Now, in my opinion, it's possible that this is the right spot. However, I haven't been able to match up anything on this street with what we see in the movie. All of the houses on this block would have had to have been torn down and rebuilt, which is definitely possible. I mean, it's Beverly Hills. The only thing here that matches up is that the street curves to the left and it's lined with palm trees, but there's a ton of streets in Beverly Hills that match that description. So again, it's definitely possible that this is the right spot, but unfortunately, I just can't say for sure. Axel's about to make the credit card deal when he sees on the news what happened to Bogomill. He quickly calls the hospital to see if he's okay, and after talking to Jan, he decides that he has to instantly fly to Beverly Hills to catch the people that did this to Bogomill. Once Axel lands in Los Angeles, we once again get a bunch of quick shots of Beverly Hills landmarks like the Beverly Hills Hotel, Cafe Rodeo, which is now gone, Diamonds on Rodeo, which is now gone, Cartier and Chanel, which are still right across the street from each other but look a little bit different now. He drives by the Beverly Hills Police Department, aka Beverly Hills City Hall, and we see a couple of motorcycle officers turning onto Rodeo Drive from Dayton Way. 614 Walden Drive in Beverly Hills. That's the house that Axel steals. That's this house right here behind me. So Axel would have been coming down the street right here. When he notices the house under construction, he gets an evil grin on his face, makes a U-turn, goes back to the house and pulls into the driveway. Now, as you can see, the house has not changed too much since the movie was made, so I guess the construction they were having done must not have been anything too drastic. However, it looks like they're currently getting more construction done. Hopefully they're not going to be changing things too much. So after pretending to be world-famous psychic Johnny Wishbone, Axel's standing outside of the police station waiting for Billy and Taggart. Now for this scene, we're back at the Pasadena City Hall. Axel would have been standing right here, leaning up against this pillar. All of them then go walking down the stairs together. Now this is the staircase on the back side of the building. You can see everything still looks the same. They just changed the sign from City Hall to Beverly Hills Police Right here is where Axel, Billy, and Taggart pull up right across the street from the Beverly Hills Shooting Club. There would have actually been a sign right there in front of that tree that said Beverly Hills Shooting Club. Now this is the exact same building that was used in part 1 for the Harlow Club. You know, where Axel ruins the lunch buffet.
Wreck the buffet at the Harlow Club.
Billy and Taggart pull up in front of the house that Axel's supposedly staying at, but they're trying to figure out why he would be staying at a house like this, and that's when they spot his car in the driveway. They then head inside the house, and that's when they find Axel lounging in the pool. So after Taggart changes his clothes and gets into his Gerald Ford outfit, they head down to the 385 North Club, which used to be located right here at what used to be 385 North La Cienega Boulevard. And if you go back a couple of years on Google Maps, you can still see that building. And I ask you, what looked better? This or that cool looking building that used to be here on this corner? And it would have been right here in front where Axel, Billy, and Taggart come outside, and then they get into the gunfight with the car, and there's the chase, and the car ends up going around the corner and crashing. In this shot, you can see some of the buildings across the street, including the Norm's restaurant. You can see that sign across the street for the Coronet Theater. You can also see that building. As usual, it's a little covered now by this tree, but the building for the most part looks the same. So, right about here is where the car was crashed. There, if we step over a little bit, now you can see more of that building and the theater sign. You can see that it's the exact same one from the movie. So Axel, Taggart, and Billy return to the gun club, this time to break in, and that takes place on the back side of this building. So this area right back here, this is where they break into the gun club, and it looks like they're currently setting up for lunch, so I'm not really sure if we're supposed to be back here. Now, this is the shot that we get when they're approaching the building. Some things have changed here. That statue is gone. Some of the other stuff is gone, but for the most part, this still looks like it. And it was right here where they walk up to the building. That's the same statue. Some of the other stuff around it has changed, but that's the same statue that you see in the movie, and that would mean this is the door that Axel breaks into to get into the club. 5th Street at Main Street in downtown Los Angeles. This is where Jeffrey pulls over in the Ferrari to call Inspector Todd from the payphone. So they figure out that the next hit is going to be the City Deposit Federal Reserve Bank, and now they're rushing to get there before it's too late. Axel and Billy are running right here past this building, and this is where we first see the cement truck. You can tell by this staircase. And they run down here to the end of the building, and this is where the guard tower would have been. And Axel and Billy stop right here, and they pull out their guns, and they fire them at the alarm. And the camera would have actually been up there looking down the hill at us, but this is where the armored truck is coming down the hill, speeding towards Axel. So the armored truck crashes through the gates, and then takes off down the street. And then Axel looks down the street this way and he sees a cement truck coming towards him. And of course, it's Billy in the cement truck. And as it passes by the gates, Axel jumps on and they take off after the armored truck. Now, you might recognize this spot because it was also used at the end of the first Terminator movie. So this right here is the spot where Taggart comes running around the corner, chasing after the cement truck. You can see all of these buildings right here. And then as he rounds the corner, you see a bit more of these two buildings. Now the funny thing is when the camera then shoots in the opposite direction, supposedly looking at the cement truck driving away, that's looking in this exact same direction. This is the same building that was right behind Taggart, and now he's running towards it. Now, one of the spots that had me perplexed was the location where Billy causes all the cop cars to crash into each other. This location was really frustrating because it was one of those that felt like I had been there before, or that it was possibly right around the corner from one of the other locations in the movie. And the chase finally comes to an end right here.
Isn't this, yeah?
At the Playboy Mansion, which seems to currently be under construction. You can see there's a construction fence in front of the main gates, and there were also construction vehicles parked all alongside of the house. You can also see scaffolding in front of the house, that one small section that's visible from the streets. But right here is where the cement truck would have been parked, and Axel would have been kneeling down in front of the main gates. When they're on their way to Sidney Bernstein's office, we see the car pull up to the intersection of Century Park East and Santa Monica Boulevard in Century City. The car then makes a left turn onto Century Park East from Santa Monica. So they figure out that the next robbery is going to be at the horse race track. And there's a lot of debate online whether this was filmed at Los Alamitos or Santa Anita, but this was actually filmed at Hollywood Park Racetrack in Inglewood, California. Here's a shot of the racetrack from the movie, and here's an old shot of Hollywood Park, and then here's a shot of Lutz giving a speech in front of the clubhouse, and here's an old shot of the clubhouse at Hollywood Park. Now, unfortunately, the Hollywood Park racetrack was torn down years ago. Although the Hollywood Park Casino still exists, the area that used to have the racetrack is now home to the YouTube Theater, SoFi Stadium, a shopping mall, some apartment complexes, a movie theater, and a man-made lake, which would actually be really peaceful if it wasn't for all the airplanes flying overhead. And for the grand finale of the movie, where Axel, Billy, and Taggart get involved in that big shootout, and they finally get the people that were involved in gunning down Bogomill, that took place at the Dent oil fields, which brings us back to the Inglewood oil fields off La Cienega. Now again, I would have loved to pinpoint the exact spot where that shootout took place, but it was somewhere here in these oil fields where that all went down. And we're now back at the house that Axel's been staying at. We see Axel, Billy, and Taggart come walking out of the house, and they're standing right here in the driveway. After a short goodbye, Axel gets into his car and drives off just as the owners of the house pull up and start questioning Taggart and Billy. Now, in order to get the exact final shot of the movie, I would have to actually be standing in the driveway of this house. But basically, the camera's up there in the driveway, it's looking down at the street, Axel's sitting in his car, stopped at the bottom of the driveway. He looks back at the camera, gives a big smile, and the credits roll. All right, well, that's gonna do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.